The judgment, the assembly hall stretched before Maya Rodriguez like a cathedral built for gods. Crystalline walls rose hundreds of feet into darkness, and floating platforms held representatives from 47 different species. Some breathed methane through tubes, others existed as clouds of sentient particles contained in force fields. A few looked almost human, which somehow made them more unsettling. Maya stood alone on the central platform, her black diplomatic suit feeling suddenly inadequate. She represented 8 billion people, and right now, every single one of them was counting on her to say the right words. The chief arbiter, a being called Thrain who resembled a column of flowing mercury, spoke first. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, translated directly into Maya's mind through the neural implant all ambassadors received. Ambassador Rodriguez of Earth. The Galactic Assembly has reviewed your species application for full membership. We have studied your history, your culture, your technological development, and your social structures. We have reached a decision. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. 3 years of negotiations had led to this moment. 3 years of proving Earth could be trusted, that humanity had moved beyond its violent past. The Assembly has determined that humanity is a contaminated species. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Around the chamber, alien representatives shifted in their seats. Some showed approval. Others remained neutral. None showed surprise. Contaminated? Maya's voice barely worked. What does that mean? Thrain's mercurial form rippled. Your species has a documented history of extreme violence. In the past 500 years alone, you have engaged in countless wars, developed weapons capable of destroying your own planet, and demonstrated repeated inability to resolve conflicts without bloodshed. Even now, violence persists on your world. That's our past, Maya protested. We've changed. We've had global peace for 40 years. Our crime rates are the lowest in recorded history. We've eliminated poverty and hunger. 40 years, another voice interrupted. This one belonged to Kelvar, a reptilian creature from the Sorn Collective. My species has maintained peace for 40,000 years. Your 40 years is meaningless, a blink, a moment of calm between storms. Maya looked around the chamber, searching for allies. She found none. The representatives who had seemed friendly during negotiations now avoided her gaze. What happens now? She asked quietly. Thrain's form solidified slightly, taking on a shape that might have been meant to appear authoritative. Earth is granted provisional status. However, the following conditions apply. First, all military vessels must be decommissioned. Second, all weapons research must cease immediately. Third, Earth will accept a permanent monitoring presence from the Assembly. Fourth, no human may leave your solar system without explicit permission. These terms are non-negotiable. You're asking us to surrender our sovereignty, Maya said, to trust that you'll protect us while we disarm ourselves completely. We are offering you survival, Kelvar said. Many species voted for complete isolation. No trade, no contact, no technology sharing. You would be cut off from the galaxy entirely. This compromise allows you to remain part of the galactic community while ensuring you cannot threaten others. Threaten? Maya's anger finally broke through her diplomatic training. We've never threatened anyone. We discovered faster-than-light travel only 12 years ago. We've barely explored our own local cluster. How exactly are we a threat? Your potential is the threat, Thrain said. We have studied thousands of species across millions of years. Humanity exhibits markers that historically lead to aggressive expansion. Your literature glorifies war. Your entertainment celebrates violence. Your heroes are warriors and conquerors. Given time and resources, you will become dangerous. So you judge us for what we might do, not what we've done. We judge you based on patterns that have proven reliable across galactic history. The Assembly has maintained peace for 3 million years. We have done so by identifying threats early and containing them. You should be grateful. Species deemed truly irredeemable are not given the option of monitoring. Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. What happens to irredeemable species? The silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. How long do we have to decide? She asked. You have 30 days to accept our terms. If you refuse, the Assembly will impose a complete embargo. No trade, no communication, no technology transfers. Your species will be alone in the universe. The platform beneath Maya's feet began to descend, signaling that the hearing was over. She descended through layers of light and architecture, past dozens of alien beings who had just sentenced her species to choose between submission and isolation. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks using humanity's current FTL drives. 3 weeks of silence and thought. 3 weeks of watching the stars stream past and wondering if humanity would ever truly be allowed to walk among them as equals. When Maya finally entered Earth's orbital station, General Chen Wei was waiting for her. He was a compact man in his 60s, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat in humanity's last major conflicts. He had been Earth's military coordinator during the final water wars, and he had been instrumental in establishing the global peace that had lasted 40 years. I watched the proceedings, Chen said without preamble. The whole world watched. Then you know what they're asking, surrender or isolation. Yes, I know. Chen gestured for Maya to follow him through the station's corridors. They passed through security checkpoints and biometric scanners until they reached a conference room, deep in the station's core. Inside, 12 people waited. Earth's top scientists, military strategists, and political leaders. Among them was Dr. Amara Osi, Earth's leading physicist and the woman who had cracked the equations that made human FTL travel possible. "Tell us the truth, Maya," said Prime Minister Sato. "Is there any room for negotiation?" Maya shook her head. "They've made their decision based on what they believe will become, not what we are. They've studied thousands of species over millions of years, and apparently we fit a pattern they recognize. They won't budge. Then we need to discuss our options." Chen pulled up a holographic display showing Earth and its colonies. Humanity had established settlements on Mars, 3 moons of Jupiter, and 2 orbital habitats. All of it within their home system. All of it vulnerable if the Assembly decided to enforce their will through force. "If we accept their terms," Sato said slowly, "we survive, but we become subjects, not members. We'll be monitored, controlled, and limited for how long? Did they say?" "They didn't specify. I got the impression it would be indefinite, until they decide we've evolved beyond our violent nature, which could be never," Dr. Osei said. "If they're judging us by their standards, which include species that have had peace for thousands of years, we'll never measure up. Not in any time frame that matters to us." "And if we refuse?" asked Defense Minister Kowalski. "Complete isolation," Maya said. "No trade, no technology sharing, no contact. We'd be on our own." "We've been on our own for most of our history," Chen said quietly. "We've survived worse than being ignored by aliens, have we?" Dr. Osei challenged. "We've had access to assembly technology for 12 years. Our medical advances, our energy systems, our FTL drives, all built on foundations they shared. If that stops, we'll stagnate." "Unless we innovate," Chen said. "Unless we find our own path forward." Maya looked at him sharply. "You're talking about refusing them. I'm talking about not surrendering to a judgment based on prejudice and fear. They don't know us. They've studied our history like we're laboratory specimens, and they've decided we're dangerous based on statistics and patterns. They haven't bothered to understand what makes us human. General, they have technology thousands of years beyond ours. If they decide to enforce their terms through military action, then we'll deal with that when it happens." Chen's voice was firm. "But I won't disarm Earth and trust 47 alien species to protect us. Not when they've just demonstrated they see us as a threat to be contained rather than partners to be welcomed." Around the table, reactions were mixed. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. Prime Minister Sato closed his eyes, the weight of the decision visible on his face. "We need options," Sato said finally. "Dr. Osei, if we refuse the Assembly's terms and they cut us off completely, can we survive technologically?" Amara Osei was quiet for a moment, her fingers moving through holographic equations only she could see. "We've been dependent on Assembly technology, yes, but we're not helpless. In fact," she paused, her eyes focusing on something in the distance. "In fact, there's something I've been working on. Something I haven't shared with the Assembly because it felt too important, too uniquely human." "What kind of something?" Chen leaned forward. "A different approach to FTL travel. The Assembly uses quantum tunneling. They fold space and move through it. It's elegant and efficient. But I've been exploring something else. Something based on old theoretical work from before we made first contact. We call it slip space technology." "Slip space?" Maya asked. "Imagine space as a fabric with multiple layers. The Assembly moves through the top layer by folding it. Slip space technology would let us move between layers. accessing dimensions where the rules of physics are slightly different. It's faster, potentially much faster, and it's something the Assembly has never explored because their quantum tunneling works well enough. Why haven't you mentioned this before? Sato asked. Because it's dangerous, Amara admitted. The equations work in theory, but testing could be catastrophic if we get it wrong. And because, she hesitated, because I wasn't sure we needed it. The Assembly's technology was good enough. But if we're going to be isolated, if we're going to survive on our own, we need advantages. We need to be able to do things they can't. Chen stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. The planet turned slowly below, blue and green and beautiful, home to 8 billion people who had just been judged and found wanting by species who had never bothered to truly know them. We have 30 days to decide, he said. I propose we use that time to prepare for independence. Dr. Osei, you fast-track your slipspace research. Defense Minister Kowalski, you work with me on military contingencies. Maya, you keep the Assembly talking. Make them think we're considering their offer. And what do we actually decide? Sato asked. Chen turned back to face the room. We decide that Earth bows to no one. We've spent our entire history fighting for survival, for freedom, for the right to determine our own future. We're not going to stop now just because some aliens think they know us better than we know ourselves. Maya felt something stirring in her chest. Fear, yes, but also something else. Something that felt like defiance mixed with hope. If we do this, she said quietly, there's no going back. The Assembly won't forgive this kind of rejection. They'll see it as confirmation of everything they believe about us. Then let them, Chen said. Let them see that humans don't surrender. Let them see what we're really capable of when we're pushed into a corner. They think they know us based on our history of violence. They have no idea what we're like when we're fighting for something that matters. The decision wasn't made that day in that room. It took weeks of debate, of consultation with Earth's governments and populations. But slowly a consensus emerged. Humanity had spent too long fighting for its freedom to surrender it now, even to beings who claimed to have humanity's best interests at heart. 28 days after Maya's return, she sent a message to the Galactic Assembly. Earth respectfully declines your offer. We will remain in our system as requested, but we will not disarm, we will not accept monitoring, and we will not surrender our sovereignty. We hope that in time you'll come to see us as we truly are, not as your statistics suggest we might become. Until then, we'll forge our own path among the stars. The response came within hours. Simple, final, devastating. The embargo begins immediately. Earth is officially isolated from the galactic community. May you survive your own nature. And with that, humanity was alone again. But this time they were alone with purpose, with determination, and with a secret project that might change everything. In a laboratory beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Amara Osei looked at her equations and smiled. The Assembly thought they knew everything about the universe. They were about to learn that humans had a talent for finding new answers to old questions. Project Phoenix was born not from a desire for war, but from a refusal to accept judgment from those who had never truly tried to understand what made humanity special. And sometimes that's exactly the kind of motivation that changes history. The countdown to Earth's awakening had begun. The awakening. 6 months after the embargo began, Earth had not collapsed. The Galactic Assembly had expected chaos, economic devastation, and a desperate plea for reconciliation. Instead, they received silence. On Vale Station, the Assembly's primary monitoring outpost at the edge of Earth's solar system, Commander Nisara reviewed the latest reports with growing confusion. She was Valorian, a species known for their analytical minds and their 4 centuries of service to the Assembly. This doesn't make sense, she said to her second officer. Human energy consumption has increased by 30%. Construction activity on Mars and the lunar surface has tripled. They should be struggling, not expanding. Perhaps they're burning through reserves, her officer suggested. A final burst before the inevitable collapse. Nisara wasn't convinced. She had studied human history extensively, and one pattern stood out above all others. Humans adapted. When faced with impossible circumstances, they didn't surrender. They innovated. Increased surveillance, she ordered. I want to know what they're building. Back on Earth, in a facility carved deep into the Australian outback, Dr. Amara Osei stared at a swirling vortex of energy contained within a magnetic field. The slipspace generator hummed with power that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "Readings are stable," her assistant called out. "Energy levels holding at 92%. Dimensional boundary integrity is perfect." Amara allowed herself a small smile. 6 months ago, this had been theory. Now it was real. A tear in the fabric of space-time that accessed a dimension where light moved faster and physics bent to humanity's will. "Send in the probe," she ordered. A small drone, barely larger than a basketball, drifted into the vortex. For a moment it seemed to stretch and distort. Then it vanished. 30 seconds later, alarms chimed. "Probe has returned," her assistant announced, voice filled with excitement. "Transit time to Alpha Centauri and back 30 seconds, Dr. Osei. That's 50 times faster than assembly quantum drives." The control room erupted in cheers. Amara felt tears streaming down her face. They had done it. Humanity had achieved something the assembly, with all their millions of years of advancement, had never imagined. General Chen Wei entered the facility an hour later, escorted through multiple security checkpoints. He found Amara in her office, staring at data streams that showed the probe's successful journey. "It works," he said. "It wasn't a question. Better than we hoped. Chen, we can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. We can go places the assembly has never reached." We can survive," Chen interrupted gently. "That's what matters first. Show me the military applications." Amara's expression sobered. She pulled up new schematics. "We can install slipspace drives on our defense fleet. More importantly, we can use slipspace technology for weapons. Imagine a missile that doesn't travel through normal space. It slips between dimensions and appears inside an enemy ship's shields. Or a mine that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Impossible to detect until it's too late. The assembly won't know what hit them." "If it comes to that," Amara said. "Do you think it will?" Chen was quiet for a moment. "They've already demonstrated they see us as a threat. When they discover we haven't collapsed, when they realize we've continued developing technology, they'll respond. We need to be ready." On Mars, Captain David Zhao oversaw the construction of humanity's first true warship. The Defiant was nothing like the exploration vessels Earth had built before the embargo. It was compact, heavily armored, and designed around principles the assembly had never considered. "Stealth coating is complete," his chief engineer reported. "The quantum absorption plating should make us invisible to their sensors. At least that's the theory. And the weapons? 12 railgun batteries, each capable of firing projectiles at 15% light speed. 8 slipspace missile tubes. And the main gun." The engineer's expression showed both pride and fear. "Sir, the main gun channels energy through a slipspace lens. When it fires, it doesn't shoot through normal space. The beam appears inside the target. There's no defense against it because there's nothing to defend against until it's already there." David looked out at the Mars construction yards. 20 more ships were being built, each incorporating lessons learned from centuries of human warfare adapted to space combat. The assembly had thousands of years of experience, but they had been at peace for so long they had forgotten what it meant to fight an enemy that refused to give up. "How long until we're operational?" he asked. 3 weeks for the Defiant, 2 months for the full fleet. Make it 2 weeks for the Defiant. I have a feeling we're running out of time." He was right. On Vale Station, Commander Nisara finally received authorization from the assembly to investigate human activities more closely. She dispatched 3 scout ships into Earth's solar system, confident that the primitive humans posed no real threat. The scouts never returned. One moment they were transmitting routine data. The next, they simply stopped existing. No distress calls, no energy signatures, no debris. Just silence. Nisara immediately escalated the situation. Within hours, the assembly convened an emergency session. Thrain's mercurial form rippled with agitation as he addressed the chamber. "3 of our vessels have disappeared in human space. We have no explanation, no data, no evidence of what occurred. Clearly the humans have developed some new weapon," Kelver said. "This confirms our assessment. They are dangerous. Or we provoked them by sending military vessels into their system without warning," countered Ambassador Venn, one of the few voices who had argued for leniency toward Earth. "We imposed an embargo and then violated their space. What did we expect?" "We expected compliance," Thrain said coldly. "Instead we have defiance and now apparently dead soldiers. The assembly must respond." "With what?" Venn challenged. "We don't know what happened to our scouts. Sending more ships could mean more deaths. Then we send enough ships that it doesn't matter what weapons they've developed. We send a peacekeeping fleet. The vote was swift. 32 species approved military action. 15 abstained or opposed. It was enough. Within a week, a fleet of 50 assembly warships gathered at Vale Station. They were formidable vessels, each equipped with weapons that could shatter moons and shields that could withstand nuclear blasts. The fleet commander was Admiral Torvin, a Krellian with 2 centuries of military experience. "Our orders are simple," Torvin announced to his fleet. "Enter human space, locate their military assets, and neutralize them. Use of lethal force is authorized if humans refuse to stand down." The assembly has been patient. That patience has ended. The fleet entered Earth's solar system in a formation designed to intimidate. 50 ships, each bristling with weapons moving in perfect coordination. They were met by a single vessel. The Defiant hung in space between the assembly fleet and Earth, tiny by comparison. David Zhao broadcast on all frequencies, his message simple and direct. "This is Captain David Zhao of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered our sovereign territory without permission. Turn back now, or we will defend ourselves." On his command ship, Admiral Torvin actually laughed. 1 ship. They send 1 ship against 50. Humans truly are as primitive as we believed. He opened a channel. "Captain Zhao, your vessel is outgunned and outmatched. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning." David's response was equally calm. "Admiral, you're outgunned and you don't even know it. Final warning. Turn back. Destroy them," Torvin ordered. 20 assembly ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could vaporize asteroids converged on the Defiant's position. The Defiant wasn't there. It had slipped between dimensions, moving through slip space to appear 500 kilometers behind the assembly formation. Before the aliens could react, the Defiant's main gun fired. The beam didn't travel through space. It materialized inside the lead assembly cruiser, cutting through its core like a blade through silk. The ship exploded from within, its shields useless against an attack that bypassed them entirely. "What?" Torvin barely had time to speak before the Defiant vanished again. It reappeared above the formation and fired its railguns. Solid projectiles moving at 15% light speed hammered into 3 more ships. The assembly's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and lasers, might as well have been paper. The kinetic impacts tore through hulls and detonated ammunition stores. "All ships, evasive action," Torvin commanded. "Locate that vessel and—" The Defiant fired its slipspace missiles. 8 projectiles vanished from normal space and reappeared inside enemy ships. The explosions were catastrophic. In less than 3 minutes, the assembly fleet had lost 8 ships. The survivors scattered, trying to track an enemy that moved in ways their sensors couldn't follow. David Zhao felt no joy in the destruction. Each ship held living beings, soldiers following orders. But he also knew that if Earth didn't make a statement now, the assembly would never stop sending fleets. "All ships, this is the Defiant," he broadcast. "Earth's defense fleet, you are clear to engage." From hidden positions throughout the solar system, 20 more human warships emerged. They had been waiting, invisible to assembly sensors, using their quantum absorption plating to hide in plain sight. The Battle of Sol had begun, and it was nothing like the assembly expected. Human ships moved like predators, appearing and disappearing, striking from impossible angles. Their weapons ignored shields and armor, cutting through the assembly's technological advantages with brutal efficiency. Admiral Torvin tried to organize a defense, but his centuries of experience meant nothing against tactics he had never imagined. His ships were designed to fight other energy weapon vessels in traditional naval formations. They weren't prepared for enemies that teleported, that fired solid matter at relativistic speeds, that attacked from dimensions his sensors couldn't detect. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships full reverse. Get out of this system." Of the 50 ships that had entered Earth's solar system, only 23 escaped. 27 were destroyed or disabled, their crews either dead or captured by human boarding parties. The assembly fleet limped back to Vale Station in shock and confusion. Admiral Torvin sent his report with shaking hands, unable to fully explain what had happened. On Earth, Maya Rodriguez prepared for the most important broadcast of her life. Every major communication network in the galaxy would receive her message. Every species in the assembly would hear Earth's declaration. She stood before the cameras wearing her diplomatic uniform, her expression calm but her eyes burning with determination. People of the galaxy, she began. 6 months ago, the Galactic Assembly judged humanity unworthy of membership. They declared us contaminated, dangerous, and primitive. They demanded we surrender our sovereignty and accept their monitoring. When we refused, they isolated us, expecting we would collapse and beg for their mercy. She paused, letting her words sink in across countless worlds. Instead, we thrived. We innovated. We discovered technologies your assembly never imagined because you've grown comfortable in your superiority. Today, when the assembly sent a fleet to enforce their will upon us, we defended ourselves. We did so with minimal loss of life, taking prisoners when possible, targeting ships rather than people. Another pause. Hanvale Station, Commander Nisara watched the broadcast with something approaching awe. But make no mistake, Maya continued, her voice hardening. Earth will not submit. We will not be judged by species who refuse to see us as we truly are. We offer peace to any who will treat us as equals. But to those who see us only as threats to be contained, we say this. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near extinction. We have climbed from caves to stars through determination and ingenuity. If you think you can cage us, you're welcome to try. You've seen today what happens when you underestimate what humans can do when we're fighting for our freedom. She leaned forward slightly, and her next words were spoken softly but carried weight that resonated across the galaxy. We didn't want this fight. You brought it to us. But now that it's begun, you'll learn what every enemy in human history has learned. We don't surrender. We don't give up. We adapt, we overcome, and we win. Not because we're violent, not because we're primitive, but because we refuse to accept that anyone, anywhere, has the right to tell us we don't deserve to be free. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings processed what they had just witnessed. A species written off as dangerous primitives had just defeated an assembly fleet using technology no one had seen before. In the assembly chamber, chaos reigned. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding action, urging caution, questioning how this had happened. Thrain finally restored order, his mercurial form pulsing with barely contained fury. The humans have declared themselves enemies of galactic peace. We must respond with overwhelming force. We must reconsider, Ambassador Venn interrupted. They defeated our fleet while taking prisoners and minimizing casualties. They could have slaughtered every soldier. They didn't. Perhaps we were wrong about them. They destroyed 27 ships, after we invaded their space with a military fleet, after we isolated them and then threatened them. Thrain, what if we created the very enemy we feared? The argument raged for hours. But even as the assembly debated, something was changing across the galaxy. On frontier worlds, species who had long chafed under assembly rules watched Maya's broadcast and felt something stir. Hope, inspiration, the possibility that even the mighty assembly could be challenged. Earth had struck back. Earth had survived. And in doing so, Earth had become something the assembly never anticipated. A symbol. General Chen Wei stood in the command center, watching reports flow in from across human space. Their losses had been minimal. 3 ships damaged, 47 casualties. Against an enemy with thousands of years of technological advantage, humanity had won decisively. What happens now? Dr. Osei asked beside him. Now we prepare for their real response, Chen said. This was just the beginning. The assembly will come back with more ships, better tactics. They'll study our technology and adapt. Can we win a prolonged war? Chen looked at Earth turning slowly in the display. At the 8 billion people who had just declared their independence from galactic authority. Humans have never been good at winning easy fights, he said. But we're very good at surviving impossible ones. The assembly thinks they know what we're capable of because they've studied our history. They're about to learn that human history isn't a limitation. It's a warning. On Vale Station, Commander Nisara filed her final report. She recommended against further military action. She suggested negotiation, communication, understanding. Her superiors ignored her. The assembly was already gathering its forces for a second invasion. This time they would send 500 ships. This time, they would not underestimate the humans. But as Nisara watched Earth's distant star, she couldn't shake a feeling that the assembly had already lost something important. They had proven that humans were right to distrust them. They had shown the galaxy that might made right in the assembly's eyes. regardless of their claims about peace and order. And perhaps most dangerous of all, they had given humanity exactly what humans thrived on: a challenge, an enemy, and a cause worth fighting for. The awakening was complete. Earth stood alone against the galaxy, armed with innovation born from necessity and determination forged from centuries of survival. The Galactic Assembly had wanted to contain a threat. Instead, they had created a revolution, and across the stars other species watched and wondered, if humans could stand against the Assembly, perhaps they could too. The galaxy would never be the same.